I was the star of Dr. Worley's Adventure Club, a children's show that doesn't exist. Submitted by Like I Did. Our subconscious is something truly remarkable. Just think about all those skills that we can now perform without being consciously aware. Driving a car, speaking, reading, all without any effort at all. Our autopilot just does it. But at the same time, the idea of having all this information inside of us frightens me. Just imagining how much knowledge is hidden somewhere in our mind, all the things we can't control or can't even access. It makes you wonder who is really in charge of yourself. I'm not sure whether something inside of me was trying to protect me by forgetting the past or better blurring it, or whether there was more to it. I mean, there had to be more to it, considering I wasn't the only person being affected by Dr. Worley's Adventure Club. We had already come too far to just give up. Helen and Lee agreed. We needed to figure out what had happened all those years ago and whether it was now somehow repeating itself. Because right now, it felt as if Dr. Worley was planning a comeback of some sort. We had dinner with Mr. Grass, Lee's grandpa. He didn't seem to know who I was, but as soon as I saw him, I started remembering the afternoons I would spend here with Lee and his grandparents. I even believe that Janie and Millie were here from time to time. I didn't ask Mr. Grass about it, however. Lee said it's better not to ask him about things from the past as it agitates him sometimes. So we had a nice dinner and played some card games, after which Mr. Grass went to bed. It was already pretty late at that point, and Lee invited us to stay. I was reluctant at first, but we had come all the way, and Helen thought it was a great idea. I guess the mistrust she had towards Lee started vanishing the more tired she got. Helen was now lying on the sofa snoring loudly, while Lee and I quietly went through some more of the clues he had collected. "You know, it's alright if you go to sleep too. Looks like you haven't done that in days," I said. Lee just shrugged. "Nah, I'm okay. Every time I try to close my eyes, all I see is that fucking video." I took a deep breath. I understood what he meant. It was the same for me. The empty eyes of that child being impaled by the candy cone were burned inside my mind. "What exactly did you see, Lee?" I asked. Before answering, Lee got up and got 2 beers from the kitchen. He offered me one, but I declined. After taking a big sip, he finally answered. "There was the intro, then some stuff that didn't make much sense. We were speaking and singing in some strange language with voices I didn't recognize at all. It honestly sounded alien." "Yeah, I saw something like that, and we were dancing in circles or some shit," I added. "You know what the weirdest part is? Those words don't make sense at first, but I think there's some logic behind it. As in, there's a repetition of things we say, and it all sounds kinda similar. Do you think they taught this to us? 'Cause at first I thought it was just random bullshit, but maybe they put those words somewhere in a script." I hadn't even thought about that. To me, it just sounded like gibberish. Anyway, after the already weird scenes it got really messed up. He started whispering, "I think I killed someone. I mean, I don't remember, but there was this scene, and Dr. Worley gave me something and—" "A candy cane?" I interrupted him. Lee shook his head. "No, it was a plastic bag. Then he whispered something in your ear. You went to get some kid. A little girl, and then I put the bag over her head." My breathing was getting heavier. We both saw children being murdered, or at least that's how it appeared. "Was the girl Millie? Is that why Janie sent you that picture?" "No. I'm not sure what Janie meant by that. I'm thinking maybe she saw something else on the tape, maybe we did hurt Millie. I don't know. I don't know anything." Lee was fighting with tears. I understand what this looked like and how he was feeling, but I simply couldn't accept that we supposedly killed any children. I mean, we were children ourselves, for God's sake. I put a hand on his shoulder and tried to comfort him a little, even if I didn't exactly believe the things I was saying either. It was a show, though, right? I mean, maybe we just remember it wrong. Maybe it wasn't made for kids, maybe it was some horror stuff, and we were just too young to understand. No, Lee interrupted me, because, after that scene, the camera got really close to my face, the morphed face, and it said that it was my fault that my parents died and that I should follow them. He took another sip from his beer. "They died in a car crash. I was there as well, and I mean, I was like 5 or something, but I distracted them. I was being annoyed and, well, what I'm trying to say is that the video was too personal. It wasn't just a scene, it was talking to me." Thinking about it, the things I said towards the camera were pretty personal as well, even if they weren't as painful as what Lee had to witness. But Helen didn't see that when she watched the tape. And neither did I. That thing is somehow cursed, It's not real, I tried to argue. Or maybe it shows us the things that we forgot. Events that really happened. And Helen doesn't see it because she wasn't there. Lee replied. Okay, then how about we watch it now? Together? We'll know whether we see the same things, right? I suggested. I knew I had to watch this again, and doing it with Lee, who was an actor in the show like me, made this just a little easier to handle. We turned on Lee's TV and turned the volume low enough so we wouldn't wake up Helen, but loud enough so that we might be able to hear the made-up language. Lee suggested to film it with one of our phones so that we could try and unscramble the language somehow. Dun dun do do dun. The melody was really starting to fuck me up. The next parts were exactly the same stuff Helen saw. This was exactly the scavenger hunt episode that Helen and I had seen. You know, maybe we did imagine things when we saw it. I don't know how, but... Stop. Helen shouted from the sofa. She was sitting up straight now, shaking and breathing heavily. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my fault, she muttered. Shit, it's fine. You're okay. Try to breathe slowly. I walked over to the sofa and took her hand. Her heart was beating like crazy. It was probably a nightmare. You're safe, Lee said and came closer as well. Helen furiously shook her head. It wasn't. I saw it. I saw him. Who? Both of us asked at the same time. After a moment, Helen's pulse became slower again, and she slowly calmed down. I woke up when I heard the jingle. To be honest, I just wanted to see how you guys were reacting to the thing. 'Cause you saw different stuff when you watched it. She took a deep breath, but then it changed. It was different. You don't have to tell us if you don't want to, we get it, Lee said. It's okay. I was pretty drowsy, so at first, I thought I was just imagining things. The children, well, you were talking nonsense again, but then it changed. Dr. Worley invited a child inside. Lee and I shot each other a knowing look. We were both afraid of what Helen might say next. The boy looked like a patient we had. He was the first person I ever saw die. It broke my heart and my spirit back then. You have no idea how hard the job can be. It's not possible, Helen, you were just sleepy, maybe you imagined something. Lee tried to comfort her. But the worst part was seeing you, Alex. You came really close to the camera, and then you told me it was all my fault. The next morning we made a plan. We looked up Larry's Wine and Dine and realized that it wasn't that far away from here. It was actually in one of the towns Helen and I passed on our way here, Marden. Marden? Fucking Marden? I exclaimed. Well, now we know for sure that it's a trap. Why else would they air it where we live? Marden isn't even in the same state, Helen said. And as if that wasn't strange enough already, Larry's had only opened about 2 weeks ago. Are you guys sure it's a good idea to go there? It's pretty damn obvious it's a trap, Lee said. We were already in my car, driving through the alleys surrounded by nothing but trees. I asked Helen if she wanted to go home after last night. I offered her to take my car and leave. I was honestly feeling terribly guilty to have sucked her into this madness, but after the initial shock wore off, she was even more determined to solve this mystery. I think that video made it personal for her. I had been too afraid to say these words out loud just yet, but there was something else that I started worrying about. Helen didn't just see a man in the video, it was someone who really died. Did that mean that the children Lee and I saw really died as well? Did we just forget? Hopefully, we would find some answers at Larry's Wine and Dine. We weren't gonna go inside. It still felt like a trap, but driving there in the middle of the day, just to see what that place seemed safe enough. We parked far enough away so that whoever was in there wouldn't see us. It looks more like a diner though, doesn't it? The aesthetics don't really match Wine Amp, Dine, Helen said. And it's kinda old school. I can't really recognize any people inside though, it's too far away, I added. But check out the walls, Lee said. They were purple. A very familiar shade of purple. Guys. Helen whispered. Do you see that man behind us? I turned around and saw a man in his 40s sitting on a rusty bike. His face wasn't pointed towards us, but instead, it looked as if he was staring inside the diner. He was wearing sunglasses, and his hair was shorter, but I would recognize that face anywhere. It was Dr. Worley. Shit, did he see us? What do we do? Should I drive? I started panicking, but before I could actually start the engine, Lee had already opened his door and was rushing out. It all happened pretty fast. Helen and I shot each other a quick look before we followed Lee, who was now storming towards the man. Before any of us could react, he had punched Dr. Worley right in the face. Dr. Worley didn't hit back. He just held his bleeding nose and stared at us in shock. "It's you," he mumbled. "The kids." He kept switching his gaze between us and the diner, his face a mix of desperation and fear. "Get out of here. Now!" he hissed. The door of the diner opened, and a woman stepped outside. She must have spotted us because she shouted something inside the diner, but it was too far away for us to hear what she said. Something strange was going on, that much was clear, but I wasn't sure anymore who we needed to be afraid of. "Guys, I think we should get the hell out of here," Helen said as she rushed towards the driver's seat of the car. I took another look at the diner where the commotion was getting bigger. I'm not sure if I would end up regretting this, but as I looked at the man with the bleeding nose, I knew that he would have some answers for us. "Grab his arm, Lee. Worley is coming with us."